Hello, everyone. Okay, so let's just deal with this thing that went on for 5 hours and 45 minutes overnight, not last night, night before in Korea. Yes, we are in a very robust and very committed democracy in Korea. Um, it's never short of surprises in any real democracy. I mean, you look at France, you look at the UK, look at the USA, real democracies have certainly interesting moments, and that was one of them. But ultimately, uh, this emergency martial law, which of course really only restricted the ability to strike or meet in the National Assembly, was dealt with when the National Assembly woke up at 6 a.m. and that's the end of that. And now they'll move to impeach or whatever they do. We don't get involved in it, but ultimately, I think this demonstrates quite how robust a democracy Korea is. So if there's any doubt about whether this was a real democracy or one of these kind of wannabe democracies, I think absolutely, once again, Korea has totally demonstrated their ability to show that this is real. My name is Lewis Black. I am the founder and president of Almonty Industries. We are the most significant tungsten producer outside of China and Russia. And I'm here today to present, really talk about Korea mostly, and not talk about so much about Portugal, but there's no problems there. Our stock price has been behaving much better since we last met. We feel that it has some way to go. We are aware entirely of what's been going on. I know that the gentleman that we know has been up to no good, is watching this as we speak. So good morning, how are you? You can't stop a rising tide. So give it your all because it's not going to work. I'm not going to name him. Those who essentially are inside, they are aware of who this person is and what he's been doing. We are in the business of resolving it. I think that once this is resolved, whether he likes it or not, we should continue to see an upward track in our stock. But in the interim, I've taken all steps to ensure that this one person doesn't continue to take advantage, I think is the most polite way I can put it. I can't tell you what I'm really thinking, but let's leave it at that. Our ownership positions have remained pretty much unchanged. Deutsche Rohstoff, even beginning of this week, came out with a wonderfully warm statement reiterating our greatness. But I think that was really to do with the fact that the chairman of the supervisory board, Mr. Gushlag, and our lead independent director, Mr. Treshek, have recently gone to Korea to see firsthand what's going on, because you can't really get a sense of the scale of what's being done until you're there physically. Also, we had actually one of our dear shareholders on his way to Australia. He stopped as well. And I think the trip went very well, as evidenced by Deutsche Rohstoff's press release. Tungsten. Well, it has been a busy couple of years, I think is the best way to put this. One of the questions I've always been asked is, well, if tungsten is so important, it's in every single sector, why don't we talk about it more? Well, there's always existed this sort of tungsten diplomacy. I think I've discussed this a little earlier, before, prior to this presentation. Because it is so important, and yet it's so scarce. So the only places you can shop for tungsten outside of the small, artisanals in Africa and Mongolia, people like us, a little bit in Australia, is North Korea, China, and Russia. And you can understand that those three countries in the last 24 months have, the relationships have somewhat become quite fraught. And you've noticed a lot of the tier one press. I've been called up by multiple, in Newsweek or CNBC, Forbes, all these different publications, because suddenly tungsten, people are realizing that something's going on. And then out of the blue, President Joe Biden put on these tariffs to protect the tungsten industry that doesn't actually exist in the US, which was strange. And then China has reciprocated by placing restrictions on dual-use tungsten as of last weekend. So this is completely new ground for all of us, because now tungsten and its relevance is becoming very much more to the mainstream. And the fact that we're building the world's largest tungsten mine in a safe jurisdiction doesn't hurt. And that we've been backed by, KfW IPEX, so we've had government, input right from the get-go. We've kind of risen to the top of the pile, if you want, for want of a better word. But we're not seeing decreasing demand. We've seen certain areas have decreasing demand, like automotive, because of high interest rates and global economy slowing down. But then we've seen increases with things like tungsten copper wire, which is now the nanowire they use in semiconductors. And the fact that tungsten is one of the backbone metals in semiconductor manufacturing, the tungsten gas, as well as the compounds that they use, tungsten compounds they use physically inside the chips. So I think we've seen a pretty good stabilization of demand, but what we have seen is supply getting a little uncertain. And basically, I think that we should feel a great confidence looking at demand going forward. It's not great in Europe right now. US is good. Japan is okay. Korea is pretty good. But what's important is the change in supply dynamic. Obviously we have Panasqueira, we have Shandong with the construction, Vatrashal is in Spain and is still going through its permitting. But to be honest, it's a project that we sit on one side. Our focus right now is the expansion of Panasqueira and the commissioning of Shandong. I think that what we can say is that we have both extremes within the company. We have, on one hand, Panasqueira, 136 years old now, lower grade, higher cost, a bit creaky around the corners, but still produces the highest grade material in the world with the highest gravity recovery rates in the world. So it's an extraordinary project. And on the other hand, we have one of the highest grade projects in the world with one of the largest reserves in the world being built to the 21st century with a high degree of automation. What's interesting is our Panasqueira mine makes money even with all of its, aging concerns. So one can only imagine what's going to happen when we switch on the new baby on the team, this brand new, shiny, and extremely well, built and designed project in Shandong. We've also, with the assistance of the Korean government, working it's now moving forward very quickly for the downstream, for the phase 2. And the phase 2 is really two facets, and they're considered separate, but they can be joined. One is an expansion of our output in Shandong to double our output. The project, as I'm going to show you in a minute, is being built for 1.2 million tons. But when we commission, it'll only pass 645,000 tons. It's very important to know that for a very small amount of money, which we'll pay through earnings, we can double up our production very quickly. And the tungsten oxide plant is really because Korea imports over 97% of their tungsten oxide from China. And it's not that they want to mandate Korean companies to buy from us or from a Korean company. It's to give Korean consumers that choice. So the government's obviously being very supportive in this phase 2. And Panasqueira Level 4 extension is now knee-deep in the bureaucracy of the EU for that funding. Eventually it will come, but there'll be a further update probably the beginning of next year. Basically, we have in Korea an ongoing improving scenario as, it's funny. Underground was finished. We did over 3 kilometers of access ramps, mine infrastructure, but you can't see it. Once we started construction on surface, of course, politically, and we had our big ceremony in October where every branch of government, whether it be local, regional, national, attended to publicly celebrate the commencement of a strategic metal construction in Korea. We found a whole series of different opportunities in which to find more support internally. The designation as an opportunity development special zone was very important for us to be gifted land and infrastructure for the downstream for the tungsten oxide. We've obviously seen geopolitics really come to the front. China, already started the restrictions last weekend. Underground ore extraction has begun some months ago, and I'm going to show you in a minute, which I know you're all waiting to see, is a picture from site. And Metso are on site. They're great. They're expensive, but they're great. This isn't their first rodeo, and I've always believed if you build something correctly at the first instance, you've got a high degree of confidence in the process because you've been running multiple pilot plants. And the equipment is of a level, because remember, tungsten ruins everything because it's very abrasive. We had to spend the money with Metso, and I'm having Metso install and I'm having Metso commission. So it's very important that Metso are an integral part of this. The moly, I don't want to tempt Providence, but I'm going to have news on the moly in terms of where the moly is going, the product. And this is very important for the longevity of this project. And it won't be a surprise where it's going, but I think you'll be surprised at what the deal is that we're doing. And of course, KfW, we have one more drawdown to do, but Hatch has just been there. And as I said, in my experience, directors of companies only go to sites when they know there's no problems. So they were happy, Hatch is happy, bank is happy. Almonty, we've done this a long time. There's a reason why multiple governments have backed us for tungsten. There's a reason why every tier one publication seeks us out for comment. We've just, we've done this before. This is not the first time we've done it. Samdong is a very fortunate acquisition for us. We've managed to finance it correctly. We've managed to go to operator principles, so the highest level of international standard, ESG standards. We're in a country that consumes tungsten with a government that identified the importance of strategic metals. And as a company, we're constantly looking for where are we best served? Is it Canada? Is it the US? So there's always ongoing discussions as to what the future is going to bring. We're not going to just rest on our laurels here. We have to keep being very much front and center so we can achieve the types of valuations that Samdong and Panasqueira should yield to all of our shareholders. Tungsten price is good, but actually it's lower than it really is. And let me explain that. We've seen very little spot demand in Rotterdam, but China is now a net importer of concentrate because they say it's actually cheaper to buy concentrate in the West than it is to produce it in China. And we know that from a conference held in Barcelona by the Tungsten Association 2 or 3 weeks ago, they essentially said they intend to import even more next year. And for the first time ever, we got actually a very nice letter from some dear friends in China asking if we would supply them from Portugal. Now, of course, we never get those letters because Portugal material is so coveted by all of our Western customers. But it shows that they're throwing a wide net. And I think as spot business returns to Rotterdam in tungsten, you're going to see the price rise quite dramatically because it is significantly lower on the printed, the LMB than it is currently in China. Essentially, as I said, whether it be semiconductors, whether it be hybrids, whether it be, defense, we haven't seen a drop in demand. And I think that as interest rates drop and global economy returns and automotive buying and aerospace buying sort of picks back up, you're going to see demand increase. But supply, as I said, is the big issue right now. Samdong. Well, here it is. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to share a different page if I can work out how to do it. If you bear with me, I may not be able to do it, but I'm going to try. So I'm going to show you this. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Great. Here is the site 4 days ago. This is the site 6 days ago. So you can, to all of my Australian investors, this is snow. We do get it because, as you can see, we're in the mountains. But rest assured, we don't really expect big snow until January, February, which is the normal traditional weather. We had that snowstorm a couple of weeks ago. So you can see from here, and this gives you an idea of scale. There are people right there. I think that's always the best way to see what kind of scale this is. This has been built for 1.2 million tons. And therefore is a structure probably almost double the size than was actually originally needed. It's very important that we were scalable. I want to show you up here, this is obviously our what we call the Alphonse D portal. And this is what we consider waste. And the reason I'm showing you this is because to us, it's waste, although we're going to pass it in the plant. To the rest of our industry, this is ore, because the grade of this sits at around about 0.2, 0.22, which is incredible because we don't have barren areas. So this mine is so rich in grade that our waste has a grade that's equal or higher than most other tungsten mines. That's how, you know, beautiful this project is. So I think that's something which is very important to really understand. So let me go back to the presentation because I know that's what we're all really here for. And I'm going to close that. Can you see this again now? Am I back?
Yes, not yet in full screen, but absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for your wonderful assistance on this. So we are now putting roofs on. We have to leave the roof off for the mills because we can't actually get them in with a roof. Mezzo are now part of the installation. We would expect to be, remember, we're running soft commissioning as we complete each section. So soft commissioning for the grinding will commence, if we're fortunate, probably just before Christmas. Let's see if we don't get any more snow. This area here where it says building crusher, this is where the ore is going to be placed. Obviously, here is the ore shed. Grinding section is here where we're putting the bins in now, and then building T, which is the flotation area, is the last building that will go up. We will commission into outputs. I don't know, every time I think something, then something happens where we make a small change or we get weather. The spring, I think we're looking probably March, but it's irrelevant because ultimately it's more important that we open and it works than rush to open and it doesn't. So it's being built as quickly as possible in a highly regulated democracy where every stage that we construct has to be inspected and signed off. This is the price you pay for being in a transparent jurisdiction, and this is why you can apportion a significant add-on value because you have a mine in a democracy. And of course, Australia is quite unique, but outside of that, mines and democracies have value because it's so difficult to build. These are some older pictures, but tries to give you an idea of the scale of what's going on. And I think it's very important to understand that unlike any other tungsten mine that we are aware of, and we pretty much know every tungsten mine globally, we don't know anyone who has built a project for one size, but is going to operate it at 50% or just under 50% of its throughput and still be economically viable. And that is why we spent over 4 years in planning. That's why this thing has taken so much longer. And the fact that the geopolitics now is saying that tungsten is a go, we are in an extraordinarily good position. I mean, imagine a situation where we can double our outputs really within 12 months with roughly $17 million of capex. It would be extraordinary. Now, we're not saying we're going to do that. We don't know if the market would support it. I'm not making any assumptions, so I don't fall foul with any of regulators. But we have the ability to do it and do it quickly. And that's the most important thing. I don't think the supply demand elements within tungsten are going to improve significantly anytime soon. In fact, in many ways, I believe the price will still continue to appreciate. It's held extremely well. I mean, the fact that moly is more valuable than tungsten right now defies any logic, because that theoretically shouldn't be possible, but it's the case. So even if we use moly as the benchmark, we know that we have a significant upside still to go on tungsten. And opening in the early part of next year is going to serve us well. Remember, we're a flotation plant. This is not gravity. We don't have a bunch of guys there as artists trying to balance a gravity plant for the next 12 to 18 months. Remember, Panasqueira has the highest recoveries in gravity because they did it in 40 years. That's how long it took to make something so efficient. Gravity, I love gravity. Gravity is an art form. I'm enamored by the artistry of gravity, but it's a bloody nightmare when you have to ramp up, because it takes you not months but years to really refine it to, especially in tungsten, given it's so brittle, to refine it to such a level to get a recovery so you're economically viable. We're using flotation. It's a chemical plant, although my customers dispute the fact that it is a chemical plant, because we're not really using chemical, we're using reagents, cleaning reagents. But in my mind, it's a chemical plant, and it's predictable like a chemical plant. Plus, we've spent years now with our pilot plants. And so, and I didn't show you in the picture earlier, but the pilot plant was just above the main plant. It's a huge, vast ore body. We know of 90 plus years, but we know the other 8 areas are still, we have data on one of those areas, which was done by Korea Tungsten and Corres, the government, at the time, showing, high grade tungsten and vast amounts of it. So I think we can continue to scale up even past what we've done if geopolitics demand that we do so, because now with so much government support in what we're doing, we would imagine the process to expand will be well supported and ultimately probably asked of us by governments. We have a great offtake as well documented, and I think that's going to underpin the 45% of our outputs. KfW has always been and continues to be supportive, including to our next phase of expansion, as we expect OKB to be as well. This is basically the outline for the dates. This will all be, don't worry everybody, don't have to take pictures. I'm going to publish all this on the website so you know. And basically the moly, something's coming on this. Rest assured, I'll have news. I'm hoping before Christmas. But I've taken all the meetings regarding this, where the product's going to go. Everyone seems to be happy with this direction. We're happy. I'm happy. The potential customer is happy. The government is happy. Everybody's a winner here. And the good news is it's publicly traded commodity, so we never discuss price. The price is what it is. It's a question of whether I get a hard floor or not. That's the negotiation. We got a lot of material, ultimately, in terms of moly. And that's what we know about. And it's clearly defined, and it's accessible. It's cheap to get in. That's the most important thing. So I've now got 4 minutes left. I know there's always questions. I'm ready.
All right, let's do this, Louis. Thank you very much for the presentation again. I think the addition of the drone view is amazing. The size is beyond imagination for sure. Unless you do visit it, I don't think you get a good appreciation of it on that. You're absolutely right. If you do have questions, please write in the Q&A. I see some people that are raising hand. Please write your question, please. We do not give directly microphone to the guest. So first off, fast, how about the further capital demand according to the business plan to get the mine in Korea running? Cash flow profile, how are you according to budget, and will you need more money to put it into production?
No, you've got to remember, we have a $20 million US cost overrun guarantee supplied by Plant C. So that we know, going back to the market to finish off, we're running around $5 to $6 million over budget, which for a $125 million build is not bad, given that we've just gone through this bloodbath of COVID and delays in commencing surface operations because of permits, and of course all these inflationary pressures. So, would I like to be under? Have I made some, cost cuts, to save money? Yes, I have. But I look at it this way: I'm an operator. Once we're up and running, we make money. I'll make the place more, I'll prettify the place. But until then, no, we're not going back to market. We have enough money to complete. So rest assured, we're good to go.
Perfect. Well, one comment that is a surprise. Someone is congratulating you, Louis. So thank you, Mr. for the congratulation. Louis, for doing a great job and a great process so far. Looking forward to March. Can you well, he wants obviously more details on what's happening as your opening statement with that one shareholder and so on. So we're going to disregard that. But maybe if you can discuss a bit of your share structure, how much is institutional management and so on. Just a quick recap on that.
Well, we're tightly held. I mean, I know from a recent review that between myself, friends of the family, and the major shareholders, we control almost 50-something% of the stock. Because we believe in it, and I put millions of my own money and millions of dollars in my own money. Don't worry about this other guy, okay? Sometimes it takes a while to wash out the issues. I placed the Dundee stock earlier this year. They were never an issue, but they weren't a participant. So this is the last person I have to deal with. There's a way to deal with it properly. I'm always going to behave like a gentleman, unlike obviously this colleague, this person. But I certainly am completely aligned with shareholders. My issues are your issues, and your issues are my issues. And that's, I think, what distinguishes us as a management team. I have an enormous shareholding paid for out of my own pocket through my own blood, sweat, and tears. Nobody wants this to work well and successfully more than I. Nobody wants a higher share price more than I. I told you in the last presentation we were going to see an appreciation. We're up 60-odd% this year. I'd like to end the year, closer to $1. I don't want to tempt Providence, but the fact is that I'm dealing with it. I'm going to deal with it, and we're not going to let anybody upset the progress we've made to date. I fight. That's what I do.
Exactly. Well, this is good to hear. So there's still a bit of room to the dollar, 10-15% in that regard. So that would be great. That would be a great Christmas gift for everyone. How is the all tungsten oxide project related to the initiative from Berkshire Hathaway project in Korea? And I have to admit, I do not know this initiative.
It's not related to them, but you saw recently Blackstone bought JJ Tools, or bought a major partner of JJ Tools, which is a big Korean tungsten carbide cutting company. So all the big super funds are really congregating in Korea. It's a very safe jurisdiction, and tungsten is becoming more and more relevant because of the fact that they think China is going to become more of a, not unreliable partner, but there's certainly going to be more politics involved. We will, of course, always be available to Tagitech, which is the company of Berkshire Hathaway's in Korea, to sell a tungsten oxide too. But we're not promoting this at this moment to Korean industry. This is not our job. Our job is to work with the government to build this downstream and then review the market then. But this is not to do with Berkshire Hathaway.
Perfect. A lot more question, but we're going to try to cut as it's 4:30, but still, let's go through a few more. What is the plan for Los Santos in a 2022 presentation? You said you would open 2024. Now 2024 ends. Maybe there's updates that these guys missed during the year, but please just update on it.
Oh, yeah, listen, I apologize to everyone. It's a question of, I've got one pair of hands and I've got to reactivate it for the tailings. But, we don't really make a huge amount of money there. I think, I was going to do it, and then Panasquera got approached by the EU to expand. So then I'm working with the guys on that. But obviously the build in Korea is the be all or end all. And much as I love engineers, they'll spend every penny and more if you don't stand over them. I mean, they're lovely people, but nobody spends money quicker than an engineer, with a geologist a close second. So I've tried to keep very much my hands on what's going on in Korea to ensure that this thing doesn't completely blow out of all, budgetary restraints. So I apologize. I am going to, once I open Korea, I will then turn my attention to Los Santos. So I do apologize.
Well, thank you very much for that, Lewis. And lastly, it's about the same. It's a bit the same. You'll answer a bit in the same way. When can we get a presentation about all mines up to date now from the information that we get from different presentation and so on? We don't always find it online. Can we expect something that would update absolutely everything? Everything.
Well, we're going to put up this new presentation on the website. I do apologize. It is, I run this fine line between wanting all the shareholders to know exactly what's going on and not trying to stoke any NGOs or anybody getting all anxious about, steel bar being erected in a mountain. So, it's a balancing act working in a democracy. I'm showing a lot more of what we're doing now, but I apologize, but please understand, I have to juggle here.
I do have to say that for any shareholder that have never visited a mine site and a mine site in construction and so on, I invite you to do so in your neighborhood, somewhere in your country. Go see what it looks like. Go see how many people are involved. Go see how many absolutely neuralgic decision you need to take on a daily basis that could mean thousands, if not millions in dollars in difference when the mine's going to open in 12 months. And you have to foresee all of that. It means that if your attention is all hand on making it work, I think it's the best use of your time, Mr. Black.
We have 108 people working on the site at any one time. So you can understand, and they're all doing different disciplines. So I just want to work as discreetly as we possibly can, but I also respect the fact that shareholders demand to know what the hell is going on. So I'm juggling. But forgive me, if you contact me directly, I can normally do something.
Perfect. Well, Mr. Black, this is all the time we had. We even extended 4 minutes because it's so interesting. Thanks to you, Mr. Black. Best of luck, and we wish you a big.
Sorry, Bruce, for delaying you.
Big dollar for the. Nah, no problem. All good. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.